Welcome back, everybody, to Beyond the Cinema. We're Sonic the Hedgehog in this one. We're on try number 2 for our review of Onward. We're talking about the new Pixar movies.
Yes, starring Chris Pratt, Tom Holland. I'm Ethan as always.
I am Spencer, not the Invisible
Not the Invisible Man. Welcome back. So I think this week, because we don't have a tripod and we have our cameraman, hi Blake, we are just going to
We're just gonna talk about the
kind of
movie.
skip right into spoilers. So
Yep.
yeah, if you haven't seen the movie, hold up, come back after.
Yeah, we're just gonna talk about it. Like,
Yeah.
just we'll be open
Just
about
no
it.
holds barred.
Yeah, so it's real good. It's
Yeah.
just it's
Yeah.
just the Pixar movie.
It's a
Like,
nice movie.
You
It's a
compared
nice
it to
movie.
Up earlier, and that
Yes.
it's almost more of a drama than a comedy.
Yep.
Well, just as much a drama as a comedy.
Very
Like, Pixar movies are
very
always funny, but
Up-esque.
yeah, it for sure puts its stakes a lot more in emotion than it does in just like, just raw laughs. Unlike
Yeah.
this glorious film behind us. Hate that movie.
But it's not a funny movie, so we're gonna move on.
They tried.
But yeah, Onward, it really, like, it's a story that's based completely around, like, it's wanting to see their dad again. It's an emotional story, and it does, like, a really spectacular job at telling a very emotional story. Like, kind of like we talked about, there aren't very many, like, it's not heavy-handed with its jokes. Like, it's not meant to make you laugh. There are funny parts that are really funny,
Yep.
but a lot of the movie is just, I describe it as, like, well, it's emotional, but most of it's just happy. Like, it's just like it's fun to watch. Like, it makes you feel happy, like seeing
Until
the chemistry.
suddenly it's not.
Yeah, until suddenly it's not. But like seeing the chemistry between these brothers, and like it's enjoyable. It makes you.
Yeah.
It's like it warms your heart to watch the movie.
Right.
Definitely. I walked out of the theater with a smile on my face, and on the
Yeah.
drive back, I was talking to Tyler. I'm like, I just feel good about that movie. It just makes me feel nice. And so it was definitely
Made me miss my brother.
And Pixar, being the greedy little piglet it is, just sits at the bottom of your face waiting for your tears to pour so it can lap it up. Because I mean, the movie is essentially about two magical elf brothers who live in this kind of modern technological society where magic has basically gone extinct because technology is easier. And essentially, you get to the end, and the older brother, Chris Pratt, didn't get to say goodbye to his dad because he got scared when he went in the hospital room and saw him all hooked up to the wires and stuff, and ran out. And so he always had that scarring memory.
And Tom Holland's character
never met
his
him,
dad.
but really worshipped him and stuff. And so the ending is like, emotionally, I was like, oh man.
I don't even think we need to spoil it. It's emotional, and it's not what you'd expect it to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
it's not
I
like
completely agree.
like
Yeah.
watching this movie. I think everyone thinks like
I'll
they
spoil
know
it
how
to
it's
a
going to
slight
end.
extent. I thought for sure that because of the road trip aesthetic of the movie that they were only going to get a couple minutes with their dad, and so I did predict that little part. But like how it goes down and the conversation and stuff,
The way
that's
it
what
turns
surprised
out.
me.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's good. Like, you'd think you'd be frustrated at the ending, but you're
Yeah.
not. Like,
No,
you're
it's actually
very...
a really satisfying ending.
It was. It was really
Yeah.
good. I was thinking the same thing as well when they mentioned how that last part would end up. I'm like, what? I don't know if I like that, but then it happened and I loved it. So I mean,
Yeah.
And I mean
They played it right.
the emotional kind of payoff for it, and like him going over the list that he wanted to do with his dad and just realizing that he did it all with his brother.
Yeah.
I was like,
That was
oh
really
man.
good. That was tender. That was tender.
And I think
stuff.
what really sells this film, just like on a whole, is the chemistry between Tom Holland and Chris Pratt. Like, just both of them are just wonderful, and they're like, they both really kill it in their performances, and they're really interesting to watch. Like, the relationship between them doesn't feel forced or fake. It feels very genuine.
It does feel very brotherly,
relatable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That it's
sure.
yeah.
And I did like that. You could break down the characters like Tom Holland is insecure, Chris Pratt is overconfident. But there's just so much more going on with it, and so much more to their dynamic that it really helped flesh it out. We also talked about how before our review cut off that our last one that the world that they build is a really good idea. Like the concept of why they don't use magic anymore, the concept of how they came to result in a society that's exactly like ours with smartphones and cars and planes and all that.
Yeah, I really like the way actually that they assigned those kind of mythical creatures to modern day positions.
Mhm.
I think it was just clever the way they put it all together, because there were some things that I thought, okay, that's pretty obvious, but I think most of the way they did it is like, okay, that's pretty clever the way they positioned that mythical character to have that role and be that kind of person in society.
Like the centaur cop.
Yeah, the
who's
centaur
a horse cop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was really cool. I like what they did with it.
Yeah, they do a really fantastic job selling the world without it feeling just like forced. Like, because Zootopia kind of feels that way. Like, I love Zootopia; it's a great movie. But like, Zootopia is like, what if animals were people?
Yeah.
And that's it. They don't give any kind of like context or background to it. But this one, like, really, like, look at it, and you're like,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
Like if magic was that hard to do, I'd
Yeah,
probably
I'd-
go for the little light bulb anyways.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I mentioned this in the last review. I thought it was a cool concept, so I want to talk about it again. You have the dog. Well, the dog that's actually their pet dragon. And early on in the movie, like in the first scene, it actually shows like the wizards of old times, like fighting an actual dragon, like the really big gnarly kind.
yeah.
And so I felt like they were almost going for this parallel where like, where like just like today with wolves, where they used to be these big, ferocious, kind of really cool carnivores that people kind of feared.
Yeah.
And now we have pugs.
And just show how society nerfed them.
Yeah, exactly. And so like you see this huge dragon fighting this wizard, and then you get to it, the later dragon that looks like a small shrimpy version of that old big one. And I mean it like freaks out when it's sprayed by water and stuff.
It's like domesticized.
And, and it acts like a pug. And it's and I thought that was pretty clever, because a lot of animated movies just do like, hey, what if this animal that was not a dog acted a lot like a dog?
That's right.
It's like, oh, well, okay.
Yeah, and I really think this movie, like, what it just comes down to is it's really solid storytelling. Like, it's just their world is believable, the characters are relatable and really interesting, the chemistry between them is good, and it just makes for a really fun ride and a really like
emotional
movie.
Yep.
And I mean, to kind of go back to the jokes part, I don't want to say that it's not because the jokes don't land, because almost all the jokes in the movie do. It's just they don't make a ton of them, but when they do, they're really funny. Like one of the highlight ones that we all talked about was at one point, Chris Pratt's character has this van that he loves and fixed up, and he painted like a big unicorn on the side. It's his stallion Guinevere. And at one point, they're about to get caught by the cops, and so he opens the door and takes out a rock and throws it on the gas pedal, and then puts in a Valhalla CD, and it starts going, and they make it really dramatic and like victorious.
Music, yeah.
And all of a sudden the tire blows and the rubber starts flapping against the concrete, and it makes a horse gallop sound. And so all of a sudden it's like as it goes, and then it lifts off this cliff.
Yeah.
And it's just a really funny scene.
Yeah, its comedy isn't forced. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
The jokes that they do make land, but like this is a movie that you're not just there for like a fun laugh time. There is like, you will be emotionally invested in these characters in this movie.
It's the kind that like the little kids in the audience are gonna look up at their dad and be like, "Dad, why are you crying during that?"
Yeah,
because
that's
it's
true.
because it's a really solid movie. Except a baby was crying in our screening, so that was fun.
But my last thought is, I think I just love the way the movie flows. Like, I know in some of these adventure type movies, sometimes there, mishaps or conflict that arises are kind of just like thrown in there. It feels kind of awkward, but I think this whole adventure just flowed nicely.
Yeah,
absolutely. The pacing's good. One thing I do want to bring up, just because I like to bring up stuff that we don't typically bring up in movies, to kind of complement all the jobs that people have on it, is some of the sound design is really cool. And I talked about this in the movie last night. At the end, they fight this like big cursed stone dragon, like that's made out of like parts from their high school.
Yeah.
And every time it roars, you have to listen closely, but the roar is actually like a demonic version of like a school bell. And so you hear it roar, and then you hear the rattle at the end of like the bell ringing. And I that's just such like a small cool detail to me that just thought that
Yeah.
needed some praise.
Definitely.
It's definitely like the Pixar formula. It sometimes like it's with Hollywood. A lot of formulas are oversaturated, but this one is one that just works.
Yeah.
And so I think it's good. And we'll go to like I think we'll like rate it now. But I'd say it's definitely worth seeing. Like definitely go see it.
See it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say see it too. It's a solid movie. Pixar can't really do any wrong at this point.
Yeah.
So
That's 3 see it's.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So go check it out.
It's going to Hollywood.
It's
That's
going to
3
Hollywood.
See it.
So I'm gonna be that little tentative one that's like,
Yeah.
oh, am I? Am I?
Simon, there it is.
Definitely check it out. Next week, what's next week? Nothing.
There's
A Quiet
something.
Place is in a couple of weeks. This week's
No,
not.
I think we have one. I mean, hold please. Talk about something else. Don't look at me. Talk about something.
We just talked about the movie.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Thank you.
Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, comment. Go follow us on 60 Second Films on Instagram. We're posting a short film.
My
every week.
Spy or The Hunt.
We're not watching My Spy. We'll watch The Hunt. We'll probably talk about The Hunt next week.
There might be Mulan.
Mulan's at the end of the month.
Okay, so The Hunt.
So we're seeing The Hunt
Spy.
probably because I'm not
My
going to watch
Spy.
My Spy.
Bloodshot.
Oh, Bloodshot's next
Yeah.
week. We'll be
Oh,
seeing Bloodshot.
Bloodshot.
We're talking about
Yeah,
Bloodshot.
there we go. Happy compromise.
All right.
Yeah, make sure to like, comment, subscribe.
Thank you for watching.
Awesome.
And
Thanks for going with us beyond the cinema.